What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Thursday, another episode of Simply Sessions. Just kind of hitting the news circuit today. There's been some allegations in and around Swan going to Ripple for funding. And that is not a great look. But is it true? We're going to be chatting about whether or not these allegations are true. We're going to kind of look through everything that's happened thus far and what's readily available for the public to see. And, we'll just toss out some general questions about the situation. We're going to talk about that and much, much more. I've got some stuff in and around El Salvador and nation state adoption or lack thereof, and how you as an individual also can make sure that it doesn't matter and you're not dependent on the state. So we've got a lot to get to, but if you can, smash that like button, give this a share. We're going to dive right in. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your Simply Session. All right. I want to welcome in the man of the hour, Nico. Good to see you, man. And happy post-wedding.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming down for it, man. It was quite an experience. It
was a blast. I really appreciate you having me, and yeah, hell of a time. But I'm back home. It's less cold than when I left, and here we are doing the news. I'll be seeing you very shortly again inside of a month because we're both going to be at Mining Disrupt. That's going to be an absolute blast. I'm stoked.
Absolutely. It's going to be an incredible time. It's the largest Bitcoin mining conference in the world. And, so much, it's going to be a good time. And then after, you're going to have a certain type of celebration, are you not?
I am. I'm doing my birthday, my 40th birthday. I'm ancient already, but I'm doing my birthday in New York at PubKey. So I guess this is kind of an open invite to anybody. If you're in the New York area on March 29th, swing down to PubKey because we're going to have a birthday bash and Bitcoin is welcome. So yeah, man, let's dive into it again. Everybody that's here, smash that like button. But we're going to dive right in. And Nico, what in the hell is going on with all of these allegations? Let's kind of maybe go from the start. What is happening here?
Yeah, and like always, guys, every time as it relates to me covering Swan, I used to work at the company, so I'm just going to read what is on the paper and not offer commentary.
Fair.
So a bunch of stuff, more kind of updates, like just kind of this saga that has been happening between the Tether, which was funding Swan Mining, or it was a large investor in Swan Mining. That relationship went sour. They essentially broke up. Swan sued Tether, and then Tether sued Swan. This is just another update in regards to all of that. And it seems like there were some allegations that came out regarding supposedly like Ripple was funding, was an investor in Swan. Corey is saying that he denied the claim outright, but I'm just gonna lay out all the material and I'll let you guys make your own kind of judgment. So we'll make sure to go through everything, and you guys can make up your own minds. So here is the No BS article, No BS Bitcoin article. Tether failed to secure an interim anti-suit injunction against Swan Bitcoin in the UK. The company's request for an injunction to stop Swan's case against 6 former employees was denied. Judge Bright dismissed concerns about exposing proprietary details, stating Swan was unlikely to misuse any information from the proceedings. Tether filed a lawsuit against Swan Bitcoin in January for alleged contract breaches. Previously, Swan had launched a legal challenge in the United States, accusing former employees of stealing trade secrets and moving operations to Proton Management. In the UK lawsuit, Tether also alleges that Swan had raised money from Ripple Labs without its knowledge, a claim denied by Swan CEO Corey Clipston. So that original claim came out this morning. It was actually reported by Blockspace Media. Blockspace Media since then has said regarding the original article, which we'll get to in a second, an article published this morning on Blockspace Media mischaracterized legal and business documents regarding Swan Bitcoin and other counterparties. We are currently working to correct the factual errors in the article and will update accordingly. A Swan CEO, Corey Clipson, says, obviously, Swan never sought funding from Ripple. The Blockspace pod headline and posts are totally false. There are no, quote, court documents showing any such thing because it never happened. Our counsel is in touch with Will Foxley and hodling a retraction and correction. Now, what's really interesting is it wasn't just Blockspace Media. There was a Financial Times article that has since been updated. And the headline is Tether fails in move to stop former business partner suing ex-employees. And of course, it's regarding the whole Swan Bitcoin operation. But if you look for the word Ripple in this article, it actually doesn't show up. But if you look at the original article that was published, I believe this morning, there was a specific line in it. The same article, apparently it's been updated. And this is from not Blockspace Media. This is from the Financial Times. It says, quote, the company's partnership deteriorated after Tether declined to put more money into the company and found out that Swan had instead raised money from crypto group Ripple without its knowledge, Tether alleged. So I find that interesting. So it looks like that was a mistake. But what I find interesting is that that was a mistake on Blockspace Media and on the Financial Times side as well. Now, there's more information regarding the original Blockspace Media article, and I'll kind of dive into the details here. And I do want to preface it with saying, again, the editor's note, an earlier version of this article mischaracterized legal and business documents regarding Swan and other counterparties. We are working to correct the factual errors in the article, and we'll update it accordingly. So let's go through some of the breakdown. Newly unveiled court documents allege Bitcoin financial services firm Swan Bitcoin breached contract in its Bitcoin mining venture 2040 Energy with stablecoin giant Tether, including allegedly, quote, entering into an unconditional secured guarantee with Ripple Labs. Apparently that part is incorrect, so I'm going to skip all of that. I'm going to go down here. Tether alleges that the defendant pledged its stake in 2040 Energy, the two companies' joint mining venture, as a collateral for an unspecified amount of financing from Ripple. Again, apparently that isn't correct. I'm going to keep scrolling down. I mean, I don't know how much I could rely on this article, Ben, because it's still being edited. So, I mean, that's essentially what happened. That's the no BS article. I can't really rely on the Blockspace.media article because, again, they said that they're offering corrections. I find it weird that it's still up, that they didn't pull it down. I also find it interesting, again, that you hear the same from the Financial Times. I bet you the Financial Times got that information from the Blockspace Media article. And what I will say, I don't know, but what I will say is, like, the Blockspace guys, I mean, they really kind of dropped the ball there, if it's incorrect. So just trying to lay out the facts here. Obviously, this is messy. Two giant lawsuits from two pretty large companies, Swan suing Tether and Tether suing Swan. That's kind of the update on that. I don't really have any personal comments or anything, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's to a degree, I suppose it speaks to currently the state of journalism as a whole, and like the lessons that people are, I guess, taking from legacy media is I don't think that people are actually doing their own research. They're just paraphrasing other people's news when they drop it. And so you're seeing like a news article drops from somebody, and that article just gets repackaged by somebody else and posted on other news sites. And so you see like a cascade of retractions because like you need to go to the source material. But I mean, it seems like that's maybe what's going on here. I don't know for sure. But either way, block space retracting. And it sucks because like I know people involved on both sides of the equation, people, and it's never again, it's the same with the Swan layoffs and everything like that. Like we got to talk about it because it's in the news, but it doesn't diminish the fact that, you and I both know people involved and, people that got laid off previously. And it always just kind of sucks to see these types of things, but we can't not discuss it because it's just part of the reality of what's going on. And usually, if you're completely silent on it, that speaks more than talking about it and trying to be balanced. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. The whole thing, it's messy. Obviously, Swan's a big part of the Bitcoin community. Like, this is difficult. I have friends that work at the company. I used to work at the company, but this is where it's at. This is the current state of affairs according to No BS Bitcoin and according to Swan CEO Corey Clipston. So, yeah, take that as you may, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, moving on to the next topic, comparing the Bitcoin cycles. So as you can tell, the 2025 cycle has been absolutely atrocious, man. Has been absolutely terrible. Like compared to all previous Bitcoin cycles, it's been horrible. But I think it's really, really important to remember that missing Bitcoin's top 10 days a year could cost you all annual gains. And I think that's incredibly important to remember. And I'll get into the details of all this. So Bitcoin is notoriously unpredictable, rendering market timing an arduous task. Different investment strategies exist, including dollar cost averaging and lump sum buying, each with unique merits. However, recent research from Fundstrat shared by the CEO of Bitwise, Hunter Horsley, sketches a striking pattern. Missing the 10 best days of Bitcoin's return each year essentially causes you to miss out the entire year's profits. This pattern has remained consistent since 2013. During 2021, a bull market, the top 10 days of the year saw an outstanding 179% return compared to a negative 43% return during the other 355 days. In contrast, in a bear market year like 2019, the best 10 days still return a substantial 217% against a negative 39% return for the rest of the year. Interestingly, this pattern seems to be repeating itself in 2024, with the best 10 days garnering a 52% return, while the remaining days have generated a negative 15% return, according to Fundstrat. So TLDR, essentially, like if you're holding Bitcoin for 365 days, 10 days out of those 365 days are where the vast majority of your gains are going to be had. And the rest of the days, the rest of the 355 days a year is actually where the vast, in fact, you probably lose money on the rest of the days. So even though you're looking at this, and I'm not going to lie, it does look quite depressing. Let's compare it from bottom. It doesn't look as depressing there, does it? Right? From the halving, it does look quite depressing, but from the bottom, it actually correlates a little bit closer to the 2017 cycle than it actually correlates to the 2021 cycle, which actually was a lot higher at this point in time. So anyway, something to keep in mind in the back of your head, ladies and gentlemen, the best returns come in 10 days out of 365 days of the year in Bitcoin. So the best strategy is what we always advocate here for on Simply Sessions is stay humble, stack sats, and that's it.
Yeah. It's again, when I used to work at an OTC desk, people that were coming in and leaving and like buying and selling and everything, they were always convinced. There's one guy in particular that he always was convinced that what he was doing at that time, whether buying or selling, was the best course of action. And that dude was the perfect inverse market indicator. He would just come in, it was like way down. He's like, oh, I'm going to sell because it's going to drop hard and then I'm going to buy back and blah, blah, blah. It's like, again, if you're trying to time it, you're already likely losing. So it's just best to decide, do you find value in Bitcoin? Do you want to have that versus dollars? Then stack your sats. You can use your Bitcoin, but just make sure that your savings is always going up. Spend less than you earn, and you will be just fine. In fact, you'll be better than fine. You'll be great. So yeah, I mean, again, just just it's so much easier when you just stack sats and chill. It's such an easier life. Oh, I can't imagine the stress.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is like an example. Like right here, it's just like stay humble, stack sats, just hold on. And again, like this looks like 2017 to me. And remember, in 2017, let me see if I could try to get this removed. No, you can't. But let me zoom in. Okay, so in 2017, we had multiple of these kind of like corrections.
Yeah.
Right. And this is really the first big one, honestly. Of this cycle, right? 22% down. Obviously, a lot of us are feeling the pain. If you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you're like, nah, dude, this is like every other day. No big deal. So yeah, man.
Yeah. It always does come across weird, like in the moment as it drops. It's like, oh wow, like that's a big number to change. And it's because nominally you've historically never really seen that intense of a drop. But like when you go from 107K to like 80, the low 80s, that's that's a $30,000 drop. And so that seems crazy, but really like percentage wise, it's not that much. And so I think it's just hard to grapple with seeing those numbers. And the one thing that I will say why I like the measurement from the bottom better is this cycle is very off kilter in terms of timing. We had a new all-time high pre-halving. That has never happened before. So I'm curious to see how this next I don't know, like 12 months pans out.
Yeah, it's I'm still extremely bullish about this cycle. And I feel very, very optimistic about this cycle. It reminds me of 2017. American HODL says the same thing. And I'm looking forward to the end of the year. I really think that we're going to have an explosive end of the year. It's going to be absolutely great. It's not financial advice. Stay humble, stack sats, but I still have high expectations. I think the cycles are still a thing. I still think the year after the halving is going to be explosive, and I think this year is no different. And if you're around in 2017, you would understand why I'm saying that, because the beginning of 2017 actually started off extremely boring, like very boring, very slow. And then all of a sudden, one boom, one bang, we go from 1K in January to 20K at the end of the year. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but it gives me 2017 vibes. Anyways, in other news, Vivek Ramaswamy, presidential candidate, he was originally going to be a part of Doge, but he isn't anymore. Now that the era of easy money is over, companies and other institutions, even state actors, will have to rethink their hurdle rates for internal capital investment. Bitcoin is likely to become a more common corporate treasury holding in that environment. Interesting trend to watch. And then what is he talking about? Well, check out this clip from the Legacy Financial Media.
I expect this year to be an extremely positive year for the crypto markets, and my prediction will be it will be the year of the Bitcoin Treasury Company. And I say that because when you look at what's happened to corporations and the amount of cash that they sit on, the amount of stock buybacks that they do, my prediction is that they'll find and at least one company in every sector, and we're going to be actually engaging with companies to make this happen, that they'll put themselves on the Bitcoin standard, like a MicroStrategy, to say that unless we can deploy capital and earn a higher rate of return than owning Bitcoin, then we're actually going to put our cash towards Bitcoin, and that will ultimately fuel even higher Bitcoin prices. I expect this year to be an...
So, I mean, again, we're like... crazy, but again, where are these higher Bitcoin prices, bro?
Like, y'all got any more of those? Like, yeah, it's I've got to say this again, this year, I think because we got so spoiled in 2024, seeing the like pre-halving pump and then the 100K milestone finally, blasted through, and then everybody's like, oh, we're going straight to whatever the next thing. And yeah, it but patience. I think patience is a virtue.
Yeah, I mean, patience is a virtue. Anyways, Ben, shall we be right back?
Yes, absolutely, guys. We're going to give a quick sponsor shout out. Get your Lightning wallets ready because we're going to give away some sats on the other side of the break. And also, if you're enjoying what you're watching, then please do us a solid, smash that like button, or gently tap it if you so prefer. We will be right back in one moment. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions. Are you ready to level up your Bitcoin mining game? Mining Disrupt is the world's largest Bitcoin mining conference and expo, and it's happening March 25th through 27th, 2025 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Network with industry leaders, discover cutting-edge hardware, and gain insights from world-class speakers. Plus, enjoy exclusive events like the Cigar Lounge and pre-party for meaningful connections. I'll be there, and I'd love to see you. Use the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen right now to receive 20% off your tickets. Don't miss out. Debify is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multi-sig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Cold Card Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional-grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan. All right, we're back in. We're going to give away some sats before we move on to the next story. I'm here over at Bitcoin Well. Maybe I'll get that off to the side so it's not in front of Nico's face. We're here on Bitcoin Well. Excellent place to be stacking sats in Canada or the US. And you can scan that QR code off to the right if you want to check them out today. But on top of that, we're going to give away some sats from Bitcoin Well as well. So the way it works, all you need is a Lightning wallet. Pull it up, get your camera on that Lightning wallet ready. Whoever scans a QR code first is going to steal the sats from everyone else. You basically earn points when you sign up, when you refer friends, when you stack sats, and those points can be used to toss into the Bitcoin wishing well, giving you a chance to win up to 1 million sats. So we're going to do just that right now. Whoever scans this first will snag the sats from everybody else, and that gives us 210 sats to whoever scans it first. I'll make it a little bit bigger for everybody just for a second. There you go. A few seconds. If you get an error, you weren't quick enough on the draw, but best of luck next time. With that, I will get my screen out of here. I'll get Nico's back up there. And man, let's keep going. What else? Oh, I know this map. It's interesting. I'll let you take it from here. What's going on, man?
Yeah, so we got bitcoinlaws.io, incredible site, and essentially it covers all the strategic Bitcoin reserve initiatives that are happening on a state level in the United States. And as you can see, almost all of the US is orange, which is extremely, extremely exciting. Now, what's really, really cool is that this website kind of breaks down where all these initiatives are in each state. So in the state of Wyoming, it actually failed. State of South Dakota had failed, Pennsylvania had failed, North Dakota had failed, Montana had failed, and you could see West Virginia, it's just getting started, right? So depending on the state, it's at a different place, right? In the legislative process. And as you could tell, and actually when I interviewed Senator Cynthia Lummis and Dennis Porter in DC, Dennis actually got it right. He predicted that the state of Utah, he believed that the state of Utah was going to be the first state that was going to introduce a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So here we have, of course, the state of Utah, and they are very, very close to enacting this into law. So the state of Utah might be the first U.S. state to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. After that, we have Arizona, we have Oklahoma, and we have Texas as well. So this is very exciting stuff, man. And also, I have to give credit where credit is due. Dennis Porter has done an incredible job on this front with the Satoshi Action Fund. And of course, I have to mention Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, the Bitcoin senator, who's done such an incredible job on the federal level to really move these initiatives forward. So yeah, I mean, shout out to all these people all around, incredible senators, Dennis with the Satoshi Action Fund. I think they've done a great job. And that's my two sats on the whole matter.
Yeah, it's really interesting taking a peek at the map here and just again how many states have at least started with this process. And as you mentioned, like obviously it's going to fail in a bunch of places. That's just kind of the reality of it. But my hope is that at least a few of these get through, because the benefits of that will then be seen by all of the states that didn't go through with it. And that's all you really need. You just need that juxtaposition of a state that passed the reserve and a state that didn't, and how they fare after, say, 5 years, 10 years. Like at that point, it's going to be so obvious how good of a strategy it was that other states will be all but forced to do it or be seen as fiscally incompetent. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. I was surprised Wyoming that it didn't get very far, because if anything, that was like the Bitcoin state. You got Caitlin Long up there. You've got of course Cynthia Lummis. I'm just was a little. Were you surprised to see Wyoming shoot it down so quick?
I was, but I mean, Senator Lummis is working on the federal level. She's not working on the state level, right? So these are state house initiatives, and it kind of makes sense, right? That she's not doing it on it obviously doesn't make sense, because it's like, okay, it's the Bitcoin senators from Wyoming. You would think Wyoming is going to be the most friendly. But clearly, like the local representatives there, the local congressmen and senators or whatever, they didn't feel the same way.
Yeah. Huh. That's very interesting. Anyways, people in the chat, if you're watching this, if you think that any of those states that are orange on the map this time around are going to end up actually making a Bitcoin reserve, then smash that like button. If not, then do it anyways.
100%. Smash the like button. If you think Utah is going to be the first state, drop a 1 in the chat. If you think they're not going to be the first state, drop a 2 in the chat.
Maybe there'll be a Texas rug pull.
Let us know. Anyways, in other news, Michael Saylor now works at McDonald's. No, I'm just kidding. But he's messing with all of us, of course, considering a second job to acquire more Bitcoin. We're all in this together as the price drops and continues to bomb. We all like to make jokes that our net worth just is evaporating. Anyways, before he did that, though, Saylor actually announced that Strategy, the rename for MicroStrategy, is actually acquiring more Bitcoin. Let's check it out.
Before we head to a break, take a look at shares of Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy. In a new regulatory filing, the company saying it has completed a $2 billion offering of 0% convertible senior notes. Those are due in 2030. It used those proceeds to buy $2 billion worth of Bitcoin at an average price of $97,500 of that stock. The stock up marginally, about $302 right now. And take a look at the price of Bitcoin. We're sitting just about $95,600. Before we head to a break,
And what did they do? They smash bought $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's right, $2 billion worth of Bitcoin at $97,514 per coin. So if you feel bad that you bought at 100K, just remember 2 billion was smash bought at 97,500. And if you do the math, Opti did it for me and when we were doing Simply, it's like $200 million down already from that smash bot at those prices. So ouch, man. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, hardened Bitcoiners feel nothing. Even Saylor had to earn his stripes. Like, how much was he down during the FTX debacle, right? Like, he just, like, half of the money he put into Bitcoin was reeling. Although he did start buying at like 10K. So, you know, he weathered that storm.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And of course, his average buy price is $66,357. Anyways, moving on to the next piece of news, Ben, you're going to absolutely love this. The European Central Bank. Bitcoin has no real economic need, says ECB advisor. An advisor to the European Central Bank has reiterated the bank's negative stance on Bitcoin as the U.S. explores the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Nation-state Bitcoin reserves are a risky idea. I mean, wouldn't you say the same thing if you're a central banker? Schaaf argued that while it makes sense for governments to maintain reserves of energy sources like oil and gas, there is no real economic need for Bitcoin because the cryptocurrency has no real economic necessity or relevant usage. Schaaf's position aligns with recent remarks by ECB President Christine Lagarde, who expressed confidence that Bitcoin would not enter the reserves of central banks across Europe in late January. Bitcoin reserves would fuel speculation, not stability. Schaaf pushed back on the idea that the ECB should add BTC into its reserves. He said different types of strategic reserves exist, such as the stockpiling of raw materials, which should be released during crises to avoid higher prices for imports. Quote, sovereign wealth funds, which invest national savings in countries with structural balance of payment surpluses and low debt, often due to high endowment with scarce raw materials, is another example. However, in the US and Europe, reducing public debt takes precedent over profitable investments. According to Schaaf, there are a number of things that make Bitcoin an unsuitable asset for central banks, including extremely volatile illicit use and susceptibility to manipulation. Adding Bitcoin to the ECB reserves would not stabilize the single currency. It would merely fuel speculation and wealth redistribution. Diversified crypto asset reserves are out of the question. It goes on to say, adding multiple cryptocurrencies would only amplify the issue. This is one of the things I actually agree with them on. But anyways, whether Bitcoin alone or a mix of digital asset, the risks remain high and the economic justification is weak. I mean, what about inflation, bro? What about inflation? What about, and I'll give another example. So also what's happening in Europe too is looks like crypto transfers are being severely restricted in Europe. Coinbase blocking transfers to recipients other than yourself. And if it is a self-custodial wallet, you have to sign a message to prove ownership. Check that out, Ben. You know where this is going. So if it had no economic use, right? If it was, just risky or whatever, why are you guys so concerned about people taking self-custody? Well, I'm going to borrow what Christine Lagarde said. She used the word escape valve. Could it be that it's an escape valve? It allows people to escape currency debasement. And by doing so, the central bank's control over the populace, over the population. Could that be the case?
Dude, that shit is insane. Like having to sign a message to say that it's yours. Like, first of all, again, like the fact that they're because are they making you sign like a cryptographically signed thing? Like, is that what they're okay, when receiving funds, okay, yeah, you have to use your passport ID. Like, this is wild. Like, if you're already on a platform where you've gone through the KYC bullshit that you have to deal with on a lot of these exchanges, which are draconian as hell, and then they're still like, oh, you want to withdraw? We're basically going to need to redo KYC and get all these other assurances that it's yours and that this is your address and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, it's fucking insane. Like, I think where we're on the cusp of is we are at the point where, and I think we're kind of getting there with like streaming and everything, where like for a little bit it was more convenient with like Netflix, and then all of a sudden there's like 8 billion different streaming services if you want to see all your shows, and then they're throwing in ads and they're putting up all this crap in front of you that just makes it a much more inconvenient experience. And so for a while, like the only way to do Bitcoin was you had to find a peer-to-peer method or some easy way to obtain it. But like there was some legwork you had to do. And then we saw the proliferation of exchanges that were simpler, and there was no KYC. And then you saw some KYC and people were okay with that. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And they're basically commanding so much information and so many restrictions, even when you do comply, that I think much like streaming, people are just throwing in the towel, being like, this is way too cumbersome. I'd rather just go full non-KYC, or in the streaming case, I'd rather just go back to torrenting all my shit. Like, I was willing to deal with like a $10 a month subscription, but not 8 different subscriptions. Plus I'm still getting fed ads. Same thing with Bitcoin. Perhaps people were willing to like upload an ID and drop in, like type out their info once. But at this point, it's like, dude, you can't even withdraw after doing all that shit. So I think we're at that inflection point.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Anyhow, the next piece of news, Ben, I think is going to spice things up.
Oh, shit.
A report from Ripple. And no, sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Report from River. This bull market is different. And of course, River Financial came up with this incredible report called "What's Driving Bitcoin Adoption in 2025?" And page 2, this bull market is different. So it's kind of comparing the different bull markets like we did in the very beginning. It's showing you this is quite interesting, right? So this is really the one of the latest bull markets where the money printer hasn't been going burr, right? So the global M2 money supply has only increased 6.8% in this bull market, compared to 33% in the 2018-2021 bull market and 19% in the 2015-2017 bull market. It also talks about institutions are driving Bitcoin's price. So as you can see, there's a very close correlation between BTC held by US spot ETFs and the Bitcoin price, right? Look at that. Extremely close correlation. And I think this is very exciting. 52% of the top 25 hedge funds and RIAs own Bitcoin ETFs. Here is Bitcoin ETF ownership distribution. And it shows, look at that, non-institutional investors, it seems like, they make the lion's share up of that. Business Bitcoin adoption is accelerating. It's showing you that obviously Michael Saylor has the intent of buying every Bitcoin known to man. Miners have 93K Bitcoin, and so on and so on. So it's a very thorough report. It says, covers the current state of the Lightning Network. But I think the most interesting part is this part, the dramatic shift in nation state adoption. And take a look at this, Ben. You know what this is down here? That is the Overton window, but in Bitcoin, and it's in Bitcoin stuff, right? And again, for quick reminder for anyone who doesn't know what the Overton window is, it's the acceptable window of discourse as Bitcoiners. We want to move the idea of Bitcoin becoming money, a reserve currency, all that stuff. We want to move that from unthinkable, radical, and according to River, they believe it's acceptable in the Overton window of discourse. So we still need it to be, we needed to get it to sensible, then popular, then policy. And there it's showing everywhere. So more access, the US banks are allowing this, of course, less access is China, but it seems like every country is heading in the right direction. Only 9 countries still outlaw Bitcoin. That's crazy, bro. Only 9, right? 18 nation states estimate to own Bitcoin. And it kind of just breaks it down here. Medium term, 1 to 4 years, global Bitcoin policy catalyst. This is the most exciting part. And this is actually where I want to end the show. U.S. Congress is pro-Bitcoin, gaining 15 seats in the 2024 election. So that means that the vast majority of senators and congressmen and women are pro-Bitcoin and pro-Bitcoin industry. And there is an article that dropped by Political that's basically saying that some Democrats are gearing up to defy Senator Warren's policy or crypto policy, right? So we are winning. Make no mistake, the 2024 election was a big deal. It was a big victory for the Bitcoin movement. I've always said this, if you're not at the table, you're not in the deal. Bitcoiners are at the table in Washington, D.C. We are now part of the lobbying effort, and the lobbying effort is really who runs the country. So very, very exciting times overall. Super, super good news. Ben, it was so great to see you. Great to see you at the end of the month at Mining Disrupt in Fort Lauderdale. Get your tickets now, guys. And this was your Simply Sessions. See you later, Ben.
Cheers, man. And everybody stick around because I am fired up about what is happening in El Salvador. We heard the initial story of the IMF giving the International Monetary Fund giving a loan to El Salvador and them de facto repealing the legal tender law in the country. So, but there's been a lot of no, it's still Bitcoin country, and this was just such and so forth, but more stuff is happening, and there seems to be more concessions coming from further dealings with the IMF, says the IMF. So we're going to investigate what the hell is going on there. We're also going to touch on, there is a massive hack from Bybit, and $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum. Well, I know we don't care about Ethereum, but it's worth investigating what exactly happened there too. So we're going to touch on both things to see how you can hedge against both of those problems on a personal level. So we will be right back in a moment. If you can, smash that like button while you're sitting in the chat. We'll see you in just a sec. Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? Aqua Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. Aqua also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, Aqua is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download Aqua Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With Nunchuck's Honey Badger plan, you get state-of-the-art multi-sig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. Nunchuck is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The Honey Badger plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, Coldcard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the Honey Badger plan. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Coldcard Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The TapSigner gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. All right, we are back in, and let's chat about the IMF in El Salvador and what is happening there. By the way, that CoinKite QR code on the side of the screen, feel free to give that a scan. It'll give you 5% off everything cold card related. I love my Q. It's my daily driver. Check it out. But let's chat IMF and El Salvador. What is going on? Okay, so this from No BS Bitcoin. IMF board approves a $1.4 billion loan to El Salvador with further, not already existing, but with further Bitcoin restrictions. Okay, so this approval grants El Salvador an immediate $113 million disbursement. The IMF says the deal will attract more multilateral support, totaling $3.5 billion in financing over the next 40 months. Now, last month, El Salvador's legislative assembly amended the Bitcoin law, removing Bitcoin's status as legal currency while retaining the words legal tender. As a result, accepting Bitcoin by private businesses is now voluntary. I think that's fine. I mean, it kind of already was voluntary, and it cannot be used to settle taxes or government debts. I mean, I'm not a fan of giving Bitcoin to any government anyways, but yeah, I mean, it can be a pain in the ass if you're roped into using a different currency if you're living on the existing one, especially when it used to be legal tender. Additionally, the government has been reducing its involvement in Chivo Wallet, the state-backed digital wallet. Again, I don't see that as a big deal. In fact, I prefer people use solutions other than the government-sanctioned wallet. Chivo never really worked that great. And it was, in my opinion, kind of poorly designed in that it defaulted to on-chain. It just wasn't super clear. The Lightning, even using Lightning on it, wasn't super quick and responsive compared to other options on the market. So yeah, overall, good that people choose something other than Chivo because they actively were. Anyways, moving forward with this, the quote, the potential risks of the Bitcoin project are being addressed in line with fund policies and with fund advice to the authorities. Prior actions include legal reforms that have made acceptance of Bitcoin by the private sector voluntary and ensured that tax payments are made only in US dollars. Again, like it mostly bothers me that the IMF is making sure that people only pay taxes in dollars. It's forcing somebody's hand into what currency they want to use. Moving on, transparency of the public crypto e-wallet has been strengthened, and the government plans to gradually unwind its participation in the e-wallet, referring to Chivo. So that was the press release. Now, despite these changes, El Salvador's administration seems committed to Bitcoin. The country's ambassador to the United States, Milena Mayorga, and Stacey Herbert from the Bitcoin office continue to affirm that El Salvador is a Bitcoin country. And we've kind of heard this since the announcement. Hey, no, we're still stacking Bitcoin. We're still doing all this. Besides, El Salvador has continued adding Bitcoin to its reserves and is currently holding 6,090 Bitcoin valued at more than 500 million. Now, if you notice, they had committed to a Bitcoin per day regularly to stack in their reserves. But we did start to see for the first time kind of extended periods of not buying Bitcoin followed by like larger smash buys. But it has been more intermittent, but then they seem to catch up. So that could be a nothing burger or it could be something. However, and this is the interesting part, the IMF now claims that further program commitments will limit government engagement in Bitcoin-related economic activities, including the purchase of Bitcoin. Now that is the big one. The quote here, going forward, program commitments will confine government engagement in Bitcoin-related economic activities, as well as government transactions in and purchases of Bitcoin. This was stated in a blog post. The IMF also noted that further steps include enhancing the regulation of the country's digital assets industry in line with international best practices. What this screams to me, in my opinion, is that the IMF, one, doesn't want El Salvador buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. And two, this second note here with the quote, regulation and supervision of digital assets will be enhanced in line with evolving international best practices. That sounds a whole fuck of a lot like the draconian bullshit we were just talking about in Europe, where every time you buy Bitcoin, you're giving up an arm, a leg, and all of your private data so that they can track everything we do. So that doesn't sound good to me. And again, we're seeing, again, to point out how the bullshit that's happening in Europe right now. Here's one wallet. LiftPay temporarily suspends operations, winds down wallet services. So this tweet from them. Currently, here we go. After thorough evaluation and in aligned with regulatory requirements, we have made the difficult decision to temporarily suspend LiftPay's operations. This was a custodial Lightning wallet. As part of the wind down process, for wallets, LiftPay users are urged to withdraw Bitcoin within the next 60 days by submitting withdrawal requests. So again, just another example of draconian regulations shutting down some of these services. And even in the same vein, though not directly Bitcoin, Apple pulls end-to-end encryption in iCloud in the UK, and the UK boots 135,000 non-compliant apps from the EU App Store. So Apple iCloud backups can no longer be end-to-end encrypted in the UK, while all apps without verified trader status and contact information have been removed from the EU App Store to comply with the EU's Digital Services Act. So basically, if you've got iCloud in the UK, they've just completely removed any sort of encryption. So when we saw like these massive hacks of iCloud and stuff back in the day, and like all those celebrity photos leaked and all, that was with encryption. Now that it's just out there, because the EU wants and the UK wants Apple to bake in a backdoor to all their encryption. The thing is, when you have a backdoor for the quote unquote good guys, which we won't even say they're not, that they're the good guys, because in my opinion, no. But just because you have a backdoor for one person doesn't mean other people can't access that same inroads to get the data. So that just opens up a whole can of worms here. I think it's garbage. And Apple, rather than making the backdoor, they just said, well, we're just not going to have encryption. So, you know, in a way, they kind of took a stand, but like, this sucks if you're in the UK. That really sucks. And again, it's just, they want control so bad. They can't possibly imagine people having interactions, economic or otherwise, that they can't pry into at their heart's content. And so this is the kind of crap that we're going to see. So back to the IMF thing with El Salvador. And so I said earlier today, not going to lie, this doesn't sound great. If things keep moving this direction, it seems like we're going to go one of two ways. Either, number one, El Salvador rug pulls the IMF, meaning that they get the loan and then they do whatever the hell they want with it. They keep buying Bitcoin. They allow people to use it day to day. And they don't enact all of these measures. Or El Salvador rug pulls Bitcoiners that have invested time and resources and maybe even moved to the country specifically for the purpose of being in a quasi-Bitcoin utopia. So the long and the short of it is, the IMF is the enemy, and it is literally impossible to please them and simultaneously run a Bitcoiner-friendly jurisdiction. This is where we're at right now. I do not know which way this goes. The back of my mind, I'm really hoping that like they get the totality of the loan, and then Bukele's just like, psych, and like smash buys Bitcoin with all of it, and then just flips the bird and rides off into the sunset. But I also recognize that the IMF are absolute snakes, and they are not going to rest when there is something that can subvert their authority and give people, in the words of Christina Lagarde, an escape valve. And that's exactly what Bitcoin is. So I further went on to iterate, to be clear, the best solution has always been grassroots, peer-to-peer Bitcoin adoption. You can earn, you can save, you can spend your Bitcoin, you can use your Bitcoin day to day, learn the tools. If you're missing a piece of this puzzle, any of those skills, any of those ways of using Bitcoin, then you're easier to clamp down upon and just stop in your tracks. And so people need to do all these things. This is why El Salvador came to what it is right now, not because it started with the president saying we're going to do Bitcoin. It's because of El Zonte. It's because a single Bitcoiner seeded that town with a donation and said, I will donate this if somebody starts a Bitcoin circular economy. Let's see if we can do it. And look, you go to El Zonte, you can live on Bitcoin. You absolutely can. I went there. Everywhere you go, you can just use Bitcoin. And I think it's important that even when we get exciting news, like, hey, there's a country that's going to have Bitcoin as its, their reserve or as their currency or whatever it is, that's great. That buys some time, that opens some more eyes to it. But that should not be what pushes this movement forward. What pushes this movement forward needs to be you. It needs to be the people around you. It needs to be the movement that you as an individual create. You need to take action. You need to build communities that care as much about this as you do, and not just sit in a room and talk about how great Bitcoin is, but actually do stuff. And so again, we're trying to do our best to do something like that here in Calgary. We have the SAT market. I encourage you to check it out. You can scan the QR code. That's the website. But what we're trying to do is become resilient, like I'm talking about, where we can say, let's come together, let's exchange goods and services, and let's use a money that nobody can print. And I think that's an incredibly powerful thing. I think there should be El Zontes everywhere. And eventually, yeah, sure, the nation states will have to capitulate and realize, hey, people are just using this. They don't want our funny money anymore. But until then, we can't rely on nation states to enact this. And even after Bitcoin takes over the globe and it's recognized as day-to-day money for everybody, you can't let up. You still need the tools. You still need the ability to use it in a self-sovereign way. So I encourage you guys, come check out the SAT market. We're doing another one here in Calgary in and around the Bitcoin Rodeo. That's happening June 28th and 29th here in Calgary. And give yourself a good excuse to get up here to Canada, come see the Rocky Mountains, amazing scenery, but also just come check out the SAT market, be part of a Bitcoin circular economy that is built from the ground up just by passionate Bitcoiners here in my city and people that come from around the country and from other countries to be a part of it. So highly encourage, if you want to check it out, bitcoinrodeo.com. That's where the main event is going to be happening. And we're going to do a SAT market as a night market in and around that event. So definitely come check it out. Now, let's chat. We're going to shift gears here. Let's chat about that Bybit hack and kind of what happened there, because it's a big one, and it definitely spurred on a little bit of the dumping in the market that we've seen, or at least it could have been seen as a catalyst for that. So Bybit got hacked. There was almost $1.5 billion worth of Ethereum that was in a multi-sig contract. Now, in terms of what actually happened, I found that Ben Kaufman kind of gave the best explanation, bullet point form. Because multi-sig, like, that's tricky. How do you rug pull a multi-sig? That's pretty secure, isn't it? So he said, from what I've read, I believe that the API of Safe Wallet, so this is the interface that they were interacting with the multi-sig, was hacked, but only the Bybit wallet was targeted, though it sounds like anyone could have been targeted. They just probably didn't want to be noticed by smaller users. So what they did effectively, seemingly, is that Safe Wallet is an online in your browser interface, and it looks like the hackers got into the API, or like some of the background code, in order to adjust the smart contract of the multi-sig and change the recipient as the person was signing. So furthermore to this, in Ethereum multisig, right here, the multisig is a smart contract with its own address. When you use it, the destination address is that of the multisig, not the actual destination. So like they've got like a, hey, this is the contract, but then you're actually sending money to this address over here. And that changes. And what changes is the call data. And so verifying the call data in a human readable manner is not possible on any hardware wallet directly. They're not designed for that. You could verify it using air gap computer, or there's something called clear signing, which requires extra applications and stuff like that. But right now, you basically, when you're approving a multi-sig transaction for Ethereum on most hardware, you're just going to see like a mess of code. And you're kind of like, when you're signing for a Bitcoin transaction, it's like, hey, this amount of Bitcoin is going to this address with this fee. Is that okay? When you're seeing this with Ethereum on a multi-sig, it's like hash and just a string of digits. And it's kind of like, what the fuck is that? So the CEOs, the C-level, C-suite people that were signing these transactions were basically blind signing. It was like, okay, here's a link. It looks good. I can verify it in the browser, which is a horrible practice because you don't know what's compromised. And in this case, it was compromised. It was saying they were sending to a particular address when in reality, in the background, the real execution of the transaction was going somewhere else. So it was showing them one thing that was a lie, but in reality, it was sending to an entirely different person. And so they basically signed and off it went. And so this was not, now the guy, one of the people, Ben Zhao, he said, hey, I was using a ledger. And while I'm not a fan of ledger, this was not the fault of ledger. It's just inherent in how, two things. One, Safe Wallet being an online interface and having their servers compromised, that was the biggest part of it, obviously. But the thing, had they been conscientious and had Ethereum multi-sigs been easily capable of actually verifying where shit was going, they could have mitigated this by just checking on the device if the recipient address was the same as what they saw on the screen on their computer, because that's your beacon of truth, is your hardware. But the native Ethereum multi-sig setup does not do that. You need additional steps to basically decrypt the crap that's on there to actually see what's going on. So anyways, it's a mess. Safe Wallet shat the bed there. Ethereum as a whole shat the bed consistently, both in terms of security and being wrecked versus Bitcoin on the regular. But yeah, super unfortunate. So the nice part is, if you're signing a Bitcoin transaction, if you remain conscientious and you have your head on your shoulders and you cross-reference, hey, my computer on my phone says I'm sending here. What does my actual wallet say with the screen? And you cross-reference those two, you're golden. If you see something different, don't do the transaction and you're good. So anyways, last couple things here. Nunchuck just dropped a massive update. Very excited. If you recall, Nunchuck was the tool we used with the Canadian trucker protest and just all around great guys. But they just dropped a really cool update. Very happy about this. Collaborative Bitcoin custody reinvented. Meet Nunchuck's new and improved group wallet. End-to-end encrypted wallet and chat, single file recovery, works with 10 plus hardware signers, standard or taproot multisig, auto deleting messages, free for all users. If you haven't tried a group wallet with Nunchuck, you should probably check it out. It is really, really cool. I love what they're doing. They also updated their new tier on Honey Badger. So this is like the multisig inheritance planning. You now have options for 2 of 4, or the Premier offers 3 of 5 assisted multisig. It all includes no KYC inheritance planning, 2 inheritance keys, multi-user support, role-based access, like people that you just want to be able to sign, but you don't want them to have insight into the wallet. So like a third party holding a single key. It also adds spending limits, key health checks and reminders, emergency lockdowns, email and push alerts, whole bunch of awesome stuff. These guys regularly kill it. I love them. So congrats to them. Again, this is kind of getting into the tools where you can become more self-sovereign in relation to all the other stuff that I was saying here. But Fediment on chain for everyone. So basically Fediment is more like a group a group multi-sig where you're going to have like community key holders, but it allows for easy onboarding for your community when you have a small group of you and you want a simplistic way for people to interact, but also have near perfect privacy. And so they just did an update to Fediment. They have version 0.6.0 now. Previously, if you were onboarding to a Fediment, you would basically join the mint, and then you could use by default you could just use Lightning, and you had to be part of a mint that had Lightning capabilities. But now they are doing on-chain deposits. You could do this before, but it was still being kind of tested and wasn't quite ready for everybody. Well, now it is. So you can now join a mint, deposit to the mint with on-chain transactions, and have that instantly accessible to pay anybody within the mint. And assuming that the mint itself is Lightning enabled, you can then pay out of the mint to any other Lightning user or any other mint that also is Lightning capable. So really, really cool. Glad to see it. And kudos to the Fediment team. And then furthermore, and again, this is where I get to the bullish side of all of this bullshit that's happening with, IMF and rug pulls and Apple and all this stuff. The further decentralization of mining, or the recognition that we could do better in the mining space, seems to be moving forward. It is I'd say the Achilles heel of Bitcoin right now is mining centralization in and around chip fabrication for ASICs. Well, Christian over at Brains dropped this. This is our non-Chinese Bitcoin mining chip, because all of the chip fabrication is basically in Taiwan or China. It's a bigger deal than you think. 6 years ago, when I joined Brains, we had a mining pool, the world's first. Then we launched custom firmware, now powering gigawatts of miners worldwide. Last year, we dropped the Brains Manager, a cloud platform giving miners full control over their farms. But the biggest issue remained untouched: hardware centralization. For years, Bitmain has controlled over 70% of the global market. We've been loud about the need for competition, so instead of waiting, we built. This week, Brains Bitcoin Silicon arrived in our Prague office, our first test ASIC chips. 2.5 years of hardcore R&D, big skin in the game, exciting times, but the work is just beginning, and it must be done. Join our mission. So this could be the first major shakeup in and around ASIC mining chips that we've seen. Ever? I don't know. Like, there's no real good competition right now. And so I'm just happy to see more people popping up in this realm. I think we're going to see even more than this, and that's huge. So hats off to Brains. And again, I hope that they keep up with this, because this is huge. And in the same realm of mining, if you want to check out the tutorial that I dropped earlier this week, it's a doozy. It's also about self-sovereign home mining using the BitAxe. So I've covered a whole bunch of stuff. I covered the Brains mini miner. I covered the FutureBit. I covered the NerdAxe. With this one, which is the BitAxe, basically the NerdAxe and the BitAxe are essentially the same hardware with some slight differences, but the interface, everything is very much the same. What I did differently this time, though, is I ran something called Datum Gateway on my own Start9 node. And I'm referring to my copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, connecting my miner and my Bitcoin node. And Datum Gateway is kind of like the communication layer between my miner and my node. So I construct my own blocks. I do all of it in a self-sovereign way. And you can either lotto mine, meaning you just solo mine and hope you hit a block. So it's kind of more like a forever lottery ticket. Or you can actually mine in a way where you're going through a pool and you get little payouts of sats to your own core Lightning node if you want. So I go through all of that and show the different ways to do it. I do show it also on the Umbral, how you can do it there. So I encourage you to check it out. It's on the channel right now. Just search home mining BitAxe and you'll find it pretty quick. Anyways, guys, the last thing I'll say in terms of self-sovereignty is check out Bitcoin Mentor, because we just launched, and I'll just pull up our site here so that it complements it. We did just launch our brand new cold card masterclass. So if you've ever been curious about the cold card Q or the Mark IV, and you want to not only learn the basics of how to use it, but you also want to learn every facet of every amazing feature that it has, we have you covered. There is so much cool stuff that you can do this beyond just sending and receiving transactions. But, you know, BIP 85, multi-sigs, passphrases, trick pins, all of this different stuff. It is a multi-session package. You can start on it and you can begin learning and level up to the point of absolute expert when it comes to cold cards. So check it out. You can scan the QR code on the screen. Highly recommend if you are planning on securing generational wealth with the best hardware available, then you may as well learn it, how to use it to the utmost potential. So check it out. Anyways, guys, with that, I am going to wrap it here. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Smash that like button, and we will see you guys again tomorrow. Don't miss the show. I've got a hell of a lineup for Why Are We Bullish tomorrow. You're going to have to tune in to find out who's going to be here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Keep stacking sats. Keep stacking skills. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions. This was your Simply Session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.